7 Crazy Stories of Glitch in the Matrix. 9-ish years ago I was coming home from a local store, Family Dollar, RIP, during a blizzard. The roads weren't all that bad, the store was close to my house too, but I remember being annoyed because it was hard to see and shit. When I got home I hung my coat up and it kinda dawned on me that my GSD didn't greet me. She was 1 or 2 by then and was still pretty energetic and vocal. She'd always greet you at the door with a bark and jump up, etc. I just wanted to sleep so it didn't terribly concern me. I went upstairs to my room and saw she was laying on the bed. Her back was turned to me and she was looking towards the window, which was adjacent to the bed. She didn't react to the door or me. I went hi Mandy and went over to pet her. She had this blank stare, but again I just didn't care that much. I went to close the door and realized I kept the hallway light on downstairs, so I walked down but slowly AF because my knees were killing me, but I digress. As soon as I got down there I heard her bark, turned around and Mandy was by the couch and TV. She ran up and jumped on me. I didn't really even pet her, I just stood there. It freaked my shit out. It's always been on the back of my mind because of how weird she acted, and how I'm not sure how it was even possible for her to get down there when I didn't see or hear her come down the stairs with me. She died a while back, but it still bothers me when I think of it. So basically one day, I was sitting in my room playing my PC, when I remembered that I left my charger for my phone at my nan's house, so I thought I'd give her a call and see if I could pick it up. The convo went like this. Me: "Hey Nan, I left my charger at yours, so could I come and pick it up now?" Nan: "Sorry, I've just finished lunch with my sisters and place around an hour away, so you'll have to come later at around 7. So then I say okay fine blah blah and then end the call. This is where it gets weird. It's just gone 7, so I call my nan again to ask if she's home yet, except when she picks up it sounds very busy and crowded. I then ask if I can come pick up my charger and she's like, "Sorry, but I'm just about to eat lunch with my sisters in same place as earlier." This makes me laugh, but then I realize she's dead serious, so I ask, "Oh, do you mean dinner? I thought you would be back by 7? In which she returns by saying it's only 13:30, and that she will be back by 7. I get worried thinking my nan was ill or confused or something, but before I get to reply the call goes all muffled and white noise, and ends. At this point I'm just so worried that my nan's developed dementia or some SHT, so I call her back straight away and ask if everything's okay, but then she replies with "Yes, all fine. Are you going to pick up your charger now or later?" So then I'm thinking, WTF, why did she say she was out for lunch but now says she's at home? I then ask why she just said she was out for lunch and said the time was 13:30, and she apparently has no recollection of the second call I made and said she has no missed calls or call logs since I called her earlier in the day. My nan is in good health and has never shown any signs of illness and had a recent checkup at the hospital. I personally think that I may have time traveled without realizing, or more likely that I had called a different version of her in a different dimension, where the time was different or something. Any thoughts or ideas? So I had just bought my first motorbike and was gonna take it out for a quick ride when I got home since I didn't have it insured yet, so I have it out of the van just chilling in the driveway. I then run inside to get my helmet and gloves and come back outside, place my gloves on the seat whilst I put my helmet on. After this, I rolled the bike forward so I could sit on it, put one glove on, but as I go to put the second glove on, it just disappeared. I just assumed it fell off when I moved the bike, so I spent a solid 10 minutes looking under the van, on the floor, everywhere. My dad sees that I'm looking for my glove and decides to help me look. After another 5 minutes I notice that it's just chilling inside the van, that was locked. Like, how TF does my glove get from outside, on my bike, to inside a locked van? I never had my gear in the van, so there is literally no way it could have been in there, so I'd. Another time this happened is when I was out for a ride a week later, and had to stop by my house to give my sister a curry we ordered. So I park up, go inside, take my gear off, and the curry arrives, so I text my sister to come get it. Now I remember putting my gloves down on the table, yet after I went outside and gave my sister the food, she was in her car. I came back in and again, there is only one glove. I'm super confused thinking maybe the dog got it, but after looking around for a bit I see it in the garden on the floor. Now again I had to unlock the door to get the garden, so this time it went from inside the house, through a locked door and outside into the garden. Last summer, a friend had invited me to go to the pool with him. The year before, my grandma, who is sadly no longer with us, gave me a Claddagh ring, and told me that when she was younger she had one just like it, and she wore it all the time until it broke. She told me she hoped I'd do the same, and think about her. I wear this ring all the time, and often fidget with it unconsciously. So I went to the pool with my friend, and we were just having fun, right? And I definitely remember having the ring as we left the house to go to the pool too, fidgeting with the ring while we were there. A little while before we left I realized that the ring was missing, and that I must have dropped it while diving or the water made it slip off or something, which doesn't often happen except in the cold, and it was a pretty hot summer day. We looked all over for that ring, even the lifeguards dove in and looked for us. The pool is a pretty dang small pool, and there's not much around it, so there weren't a lot of places to look. We didn't find it, so the people said they'd give us a call if they found it and we could come pick it up. But a few days later, I woke up and without even thinking I reached behind me, and underneath my pillow was the ring. I know my parents had nothing to do with it, cause they wouldn't put it in my bed, and I know I had it with me at the pool, and it definitely couldn't have been any other ring, so what happened? I wanna start off by saying that I'm a huge skeptic and would read posts here with friends to guess which ones were lies or made up for fun and drinking game, so sorry, I guess here I am anyways. What goes around comes around. This story is something that happened not that long ago and I still can't grasp it. I always since I was a kid had these deja vu feelings quite regularly, maybe twice a week. It can be about anything from conversations to places I've been to. Over the time I've come to accept them though as just a normal thing everyone has, so it doesn't bother me, and they've always been foggy anyways until recently. So I met my friend on my way home from work. It was a quick conversation as he had to go to his new work. We talked about our dream regarding travel to the Caribbean and Jew Island jumping, something we always wanted. This was before Corona by the way, and I get this deja vu feeling about what he will say, so I mumble the same time as he speaks. Better yet, let's buy a boat ourselves. It becomes a bit silent as he looks at me and laughs. Clearly he didn't overthink it. Anyways, he looks at his phone and heads off, not wanting to be late. The next day I call him to ask if he wants to hang out. We meet up and I jokingly say how crazy it was that I knew what he was gonna say when we ran into each other, but he just looks confused at me asking what I meant. I look confused back, explaining it again, saying yeah, yesterday when we ran into each other and said the same thing exactly at the same time. Defute dude? To be fair, it feels like something one would remember, but my friend doesn't at all. The really strange part is when he says what you mean when we met yesterday by the way? Obviously we with each other all the time in my friends group, so it's more like taking it as haha very funny at first, which I do, but my friend is dead serious. I explain it one more time but he stops me this time mid-convo asking how I knew about his new work. He started it yesterday and hadn't told anyone about it since he was ashamed of being a dealer for the local casino. Now I got this cold feeling to my core. I felt so uneasy and almost sick, my head was spinning, and then I just tell him everything about my deja vu feelings I had since a kid, something I've never told anyone, and at this point he's trying to figure out if I'm sleep deprived or stressed, but it's not that. I know I met him but he doesn't remember, and seriously it's starting to mess with my head thinking about this. We haven't talked much since then and obviously he doesn't believe me. Maybe someone here have had a similar experience? Cause I'm seriously worrying I'm going crazy or something. I'm a logical thinking guy, so this messes even more with me. I was 13 or 14 when I went for a 2-week stay at a sea resort with a group of my classmates. Everything was so romantic about being away from parents in an unusual setting that I spent my first sleepless night in life and had a good chance for a threesome, which I wasted due to my complete innocence, but that's not the point. After this preface, you might presume that I at least learned to smoke weed and went for all kinds of drinks within my reach. Believe it or not, I didn't drink a single drop of alcohol in those 2 weeks, and in the 3 years that followed, and I've never ever tried any kind of drugs in my life to this moment. So, on a bright sunny day, I was in the room that I shared with 2 of my mates. I remember telling them that I needed to ask something at the lobby, so I headed for the elevator and opted for the ground floor. The ride downhill was smooth, but when the elevator doors opened and I stepped out of it, I found myself in the middle of the night. The lobby was deserted and dark, its huge windows leaving no doubts as to how late it was. There was no one at the reception stand. Luckily, the elevator was still working and had lights on, so I didn't hesitate to come back ASAP. The elevator made it to my floor just as smoothly, but when the doors opened into a long well-lit hall, I saw my said classmates running towards me on the walls. A couple of moments later I found myself sitting on my bed, fully clothed, with my classmates by my side asking questions. The strange part of it is that one of them, whom I knew better and who I maintained contact with for some years after school, always refused to talk to me about that day. Which is weird, cause you can basically laugh about anything you did when you were 13, speaking to a classmate. I'm in my 30s now, but that day still somewhat bothers me, as I cannot come up with a sound explanation. Was I drugged? Sounds near to impossible in those circumstances. Neither can I recall having any side effects like headache/vomiting etc. or vice versa, being extremely happy and lightheaded. That wall run thing resembles the Matrix, of course, and although I cannot remember if I had seen it by the time, it could have been entirely possible. Was it just a dream? Hardly so. I had 3 dreams in my life that felt extremely vivid, to the point that I tend to believe it was rather me allowed to see some astral plane or whatever you call it, than merely dreams, but that experience felt otherwise. Last fall, I went on a short vacation with some friends while hubby stayed home with the kids. I was last to book, so I got stuck with the entertainment room on an air mattress. The first night there I was trying to sleep and I heard this sound of overlapping whispers. It was like 100 people whispering over each other all at once. There's an episode of Star Trek TNG called Cause and Effect where they're stuck in a time loop. Dr. Crusher hears conversations stacked on top of each other from previous loops, and what they played in the episode sounded exactly like what I heard. It really creeped me out, but I tried to tell myself I'm really high and maybe the speakers are malfunctioning. I eventually forgot about it a few days later. About a month later hubby and I were hanging out and he seemed kind of upset. I think he was just having a rough day, but one of the things he was upset about was that he was worried he was schizophrenic. He has a personality disorder, which causes mood issues, but he said he recently began hearing voices. I asked some follow-up questions and it turns out that one night he heard a bunch of overlapping whispers. Couldn't make out the words, but they were definitely human voices. He just heard it the one time. I had forgotten all about what happened on my trip until he said that. What the crap? We were in different states when I heard the voices. How did he hear the same thing 300 miles away during the same time frame? I knew what day might happened, he didn't know, aside from it being about a month ago. So what do you guys think? Part of what made me forget about it so soon was that there was a bunch of AV equipment in the corner it came from. TV, speakers, DVD player, probably a stereo. I just figured maybe it picked up some interference, which still may be true, but for us to both have the same experience. Thank you guys for watching, and if you liked the video don't forget to subscribe.